Welcome to North Carolina. It's a beautiful, sunny but cold day. The storm has gone away. We expect another one next week, but right now, out here at the range, and we want to have a good time. Today, we are going to talk about 3 mistakes that a beginner shooter typically makes whenever shooting a gun. Okay, now, the one thing that we've always talked about is there are different grips for different types of firearms. This particular firearm, which is the most popular firearm at this time, is a striker fire. Okay, so there are several mistakes that I see people make whenever they are attempting to grip this gun. And these are the things that you have to learn early and that you have to improve on as you move along. I will tell you, I have made the same mistakes, and I have evolved on how I grip my firearm, and you will learn to do the same thing. First mistake that they tend to make is their finger on their support hand can oftentimes be too low. So you see my thumbs, they're lined up, but a lot of times I think people are afraid of the firearm pinching them, so they'll go a little bit low. That low thumb makes it a little more difficult to actually control the firearm. Now, I have a little extra support at this time because I have this flashlight, and if you look, that kind of I got my thumbs on the flashlight. If that flashlight wasn't there, it would be a little more difficult to control if my thumb is not resting in the right place. I tend to grip my firearm a little bit high. I ride kind of high on the slide. A lot of times that makes it a little more difficult for me to shoot certain guns. A lot of times I'll have a problem with my Glock 19 because it tends to lock back when I shoot. And I get that, but my grip is so comfortable for me, I don't want to change it. However, I have to be aware of the firearm that I have with me, and I have to be aware of hand placement. I grip, if you see, my thumb is riding kind of high on the slide, and that's a very comfortable grip for me. I think that the biggest issue that people tend to have when riding high on the slide or riding along the slide is that they're afraid that that slide is going to pinch you. That can happen. I have not had a problem being pinched, and I don't think that is the case with the improvements that have been made in the striker fire or the modern striker fire pistol at this time. The second mistake that people tend to make in firing a striker fire handgun is that they tend to not know where their trigger wall is. So you may ask, what is a trigger wall? This is a trigger wall. Listen closely and you'll hear the click. Okay, now why is that important? Well, it's important because it'll allow you to get on your next shot a whole lot quicker, a whole lot faster. Um, a lot of times, whenever I come and I do a build drill, I practice taking my finger off of the trigger. Why? Because a lot of times, if you're doing speed shooting, you're shooting 6 shots as fast as you can have what's called freeze. And what actually happens is that it's easier to remove your finger off of the trigger than to put your finger back on the trigger. And a lot of times, if you're just going to the wall and you're speed shooting, that finger is going to freeze. However, if you want to get multiple shots off and you want to get multiple shots off very quickly, remember, you got to understand the wall on the firearm. And when you hear that click, when you feel that click, you're back on that shot. Okay? Just like that. Whenever you're at home and you're dry firing, you should actually rack your firearm, and you should work on filling that wall. Very important. Okay, so the third and most important thing that I think you should learn as a beginning shooter is to keep both eyes open. A lot of times, and I think it's natural instinct, because we hear talks about the dominant eye, the non-dominant eye, and that's important. But the most important thing is that you keep both eyes open. That will allow you to see everything around you and still be able to shoot. Remember, what you're going to do is you're going to bring that sight up to your line of sight, and you're going to squint your eyes, just like you're mean mugging, just like you're mad at someone. And what that does is that brings that sight into focus, or that dot into focus. And I'll challenge you to do this. If you take your finger and you put it out in front of you, and you keep your face relaxed, you see the finger, but it hasn't come together. If you take your finger and you put it out in front of you and you mean mug or you squint your eyes, it actually brings that one finger into focus. And now you're not seeing multiple fingers. You're looking at that finger directly. Okay? So, target focused shooting is extremely important. Now, a lot of times it takes a while to get there. It took me a while. Okay, so I began with iron sights, and with the iron sights, I still would put it out there, put my firearm in my line of sight. I would squint my eyes, and I would focus on that front sight. Okay, it's very important. And this is even with my rifle. I'm not looking at that dot. I'm looking at that target. I'm squinting my eyes, both eyes open, and it brings that dot into focus. That's something very important. I think that is something that if you start learning, then you won't have to learn. As I think starting with good habits is extremely important and is extremely helpful. If you do not have a dot, okay, on your firearm, remember that you're looking through the rear sights and you're focusing on the front sight in order to see the dot. Of course, you see this firearm does have a dot. Okay, so what I want to show you how to do is how to use both eyes open and have your front sight or your rear sight and your front sights. Now, this is not going to look exactly like it's supposed to because this dot is going to interfere. But what I'm going to do, of course, you always know with your iron sights is equal height, equal lights, which means when you're looking through that rear sight, that front sight should be equally spaced between them, and the height should be level with the rear sights. Okay? And that's what helps you create the accuracy. Now, in order to become target focused and you're not using the dot, what you're going to do is you're going to take a piece of tape just like this, and you're going to put, it's probably going to be a smaller piece of tape, but you're going to put that tape here. It's definitely going to be smaller, but this is the only thing that I have right now to show you. And you're going to squint your eyes, and you really want a darker piece of tape. You're going to squint your eyes, and you're going to look past this tape, and you're going to practice until you're able to see, when you point this firearm, you should be able to see that whole target. Okay, so the same principle applies that applies with the dot, applies with the iron sights. Like I said, you definitely want to get a smaller, stickier piece of tape. This just happens to be the only thing that I have at this time, but that helps you become target focused and not sight focused. It should have been faster.